Hey, welcome back. I've been quiet these couple of days. So anyway, I was talking about measures of success and that kind of thing. And basically why I spoke a bit about that is because of all the abuse and all the hatred I have faced. And it doesn't matter which side of the family. On my mother's side, as I was growing up, because that's where I grew up. I didn't grow up on my father's side. I was with my father from the age of 4 to 10. And then, he went. And then from that time until my adulthood, I was growing up with my mother's side of the family. So apart from my grandmother, who I believed loved me unconditionally, besides her harsh discipline methods, I haven't, and my great-grandmother, who did not harshly discipline me and showed me the tender, loving care that I suppose majority of you people in this part of the world grew up by. But that was short-lived for me because she passed away maybe at the time I needed her the most, and because I just come back from much more intense psychological abuse from my mother, and so I didn't get the opportunity to what's the word I can use, to be renatured by my great grandmother. So my mindset was at a certain level, and there was so much intensity of psychological damage. So I didn't get a chance to have that reduced down by some pep talk or anything like that. So because my great-grandmother died, before the opportunity presented itself, I had just come back in the December for the December holidays, and on Christmas Day she died. So we were only together for a couple of weeks, and we were still just talking about. We hadn't actually got the chance to talk as such because it was also cultivation time. So we were just too busy in the fields. And then, it was my grandmother's ways after that. And then, when I became to have a different side of the family, which would have been my husband's side of the family, again, it was instant hatred. And, to be honest, it's like everybody's. I've been blind. I mean, I prayed. I praise God that He made me blind to some of these things, because how would I have survived otherwise if I had realized from the outset that this is what these people are. This is how they perceive me, and this is how they feel about me. I don't know. I mean, I think there was a time in my life that I had gone the same way that my son did. But, God obviously carried me through and opened my eyes at a later time. And I don't know what's better, whether I should have known then at an earlier time or knowing now. But I'm not in any control. And one of the things I know is you cannot rush God. You cannot rush God. You cannot demand God's time for things to happen in your own time, because I did that. And I will tell you a bit more about that. And, I've regretted it, because every day I think, yes, there's been lots of influences in my life that made me to reach to this point. And for those of you who are non-believers, you probably think, oh, she's just making an excuse. Just accept you're hopeless and useless and you are what you are. I'm not saying I'm not taking responsibility for some of the things, but my prayers at one point had been so intense. They had been so intense and only focused on one thing, and I was literally demanding God. And I made sacrifices in those prayers and promises to God that came true. And I can't take it back. I can't say, actually, I wish I hadn't said that. Why did you let it happen? I prayed for it. All right. So what was it? You are hoping to hear about my coming here to the UK from Zambia. When we were preparing to come to the UK, I got my passport, obviously, and we had to go to Lusaka for that because in those days the way things worked, they were not as efficient as they are today back in Zambia. So if you want something done sooner than later, you're better off going to the headquarters in Lusaka. So we went to Lusaka. I got my passport, and then got to the British Embassy, got my visas, and we started preparing. So we started selling things basically in the house, our furniture and stuff, which is, when there's a garage garden sale, furniture and stuff out in the garden and the gate wide open, that is an expatriate leaving, going home, and some people were coming in. And I'm not quite sure where the idea came from, but I was supposed to tell everybody that I was raising money for a holiday back to the UK, and that I was only going to go for a couple of months and then I'll be back. So that was the story. I can't remember how that came about, but that's what I was telling people. And we were told that we've got a house. That was it. We had a house, and I can't remember when. I know when we arrived. When we arrived at Heathrow, I had to go through some medical stuff. TB checks and like X-rays and stuff like that to make sure I had a clean bill of health before I was allowed into the UK. So then my husband's son came to pick us up and took us to our new house. That's when I had realized, and we had a coal fire. So we had a coalman coming once a week, and we would buy coal from him, and we had a coal shed outside, so we had to bring buckets of coal in the house. Otherwise we would have no hot water and we would have no warmth in the house. And we didn't have central heating. We only had the one, we could only warm up the one room, which is the living room where the coal fire was. And I think there was a fireplace in the bedrooms. I can't quite remember, in the 2 bedrooms, because it was supposed to be 3 bedrooms, but Judy's room was a box room. It was really a very small room, and she was the most untidy kid you would know. But we didn't make fire in the bedrooms, and we had to. I remember on a Monday we had to go to the beast market, and we bought water bottles. And before you go to bed, you put hot water bottles in your bed so that it's warm when you get in there. And we also bought. There was an auction. There was an auctioneers. I can't remember what they're called now. And we used to go there, and we'll buy our things at the auction. They're all second-hand stuff that people want sold because their family or relative have died, or they just want to get rid of stuff and things like that. So the beast market was like an open door market that every Monday we would get some stuff from there, and then other stuff we would get at the beast market. And there was a pile of blankets that were being sold in a bundle at the beast market. We look. I think there was like an open time during the week where you can have a look and think, I think I'll come and bid for that. And we bought our dining table from there. We already, there was a 3-piece suite. Not quite. It was second hand. I think it was also bought from the auction that was already there. So we had beds. We had the basics in the house that my husband's son had prepared for us. So we bought a bundle of those clothes, those blankets, and there was some electric blankets in there which you could plug in before you went to bed, so that it's warm when you get in there. It must have been very cold for Judy because she was the only one who didn't share. I think the boys had bunk beds. I think they had bunk beds. But, she was the only one in her room, and everybody else was a couple of people in a room. And it was a very difficult situation for me because it was very cold. But also it was clearly, evidently, from the outset that our way of life was not going to be as comfortable as it was made out to be before we got there. And I just thought to myself, Lord, you are in charge. You just need to guide me. And I know what I want to do here is get some education. I already had that Pittman secretarial qualification. I was thinking, and we were living on income support. That was the thing. We had qualified for income support. And I thought maybe I should get a job as well as go to college. So I actually signed up to go to college. I think we arrived in the January. It was January we got there. In the September I started college. So it was a good 9 months at home. And so I started college, and I was so very lucky because this lady literally adopted us as a family. Me and the kids. She guided us, and she was very helpful with me and encouraging me and telling me she believed in me. It was the first time I ever had anyone who said, I believe in you because, you can do this. And I know you can because you're capable. I've noticed that. Her name is Stephanie. And I did well. I don't know if I would have if she didn't tell me that she believed in me. Guided me to say, right, now you do this, and this is what you expect, and this is what to do. And she actually took me to get my results, my GCSE results, after at the end of the first year. And she says, you see, I told you could do it. I had passed. But so while I was in college, I was leaving. I was still breastfeeding my son. I breastfed for 2 years. I would come back from college, and he would be running to me, and I'll pick him up, and he'll be unbuttoning my top, trying to get his milk. At that time, I hadn't realized that the people in this country don't look at the breast the way we do over there. Over there, the breast is a baby's food. So you could breastfeed anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Nobody gets embarrassed or ashamed. But here it was a different kettle of fish. So I think I was embarrassing people, allowing my son to unbutton me and take his breast as I walk towards the house on the road. So anyway, and so with as well as being in college doing the GCSEs, there was I'm not quite sure who it was that mentioned it to me, but there was a job, a vacancy for a bookkeeping an accounts technician, in Boots the chemist. And I'm not quite sure how their system worked at the time, but I had to go and I applied for it, and they asked me to come for an interview, and I went for an interview in Wrexham at the Boots chemist in Wrexham, and I got the job. But it was part-time, and when I presented to my husband that I got the job and this is what I'll be earning, he said to me, don't take it, because if you take it, they will stop paying us income support, and what you'll be earning will not be enough to cover all the expenses. I mean, I didn't know how, I have no clue. I had no clue how the system worked, so I obeyed and I didn't take the job. I just carried on at college. But, eventually I did learn. I found out that, so you had to earn a lot more than what the government would give you. And what I would have been earning there, if I was a student and didn't have a family, that would have been brilliant. But obviously I was a student and I had a family, so I needed, enough to feed us all. So, with the income support, you were given money to live on, which is, the cost of your clothes and food were taken into account, and the cost of your heating and lighting were taken into account, and your rent was paid for you for, I think, what did we have in those days? Poll tax. Your poll tax was paid for. It was poll tax. I don't know whether we already had a poll tax or not. I think poll tax came later. I can't remember now. But, all of that was paid for. And we also got an allowance for our coal. So there was an awful lot that we got, that was paid for. Your prescriptions were paid for. I didn't even know that some of these things you had to pay until I was on my own and living independently, and insisting that I wasn't, from where I'm coming from, I wasn't going to be living on government handouts. It did not look a good thing to me, although it sustained me. I thought going to work would earn me a better living. And this is the bit where my son and I ended up being hungry for the whole week, because I had not realized that if I start a job, I'm supposed to keep my benefits until I start getting paid. But I phoned and gave up my benefits the day I started work, so we didn't have any money. We didn't get benefits, and I wasn't paid until 2 weeks later. And that was very difficult. Anyway, I'll tell you a bit more about that. So we started our life in the UK, and unfortunately, as I said, I had no issues, no problems with the boys. They were well behaved, and the old lad, he was doing his best to earn his own pocket money. He got jobs delivering papers. He got, jobs delivering milk with a milkman. He would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, poor lad. And he took his responsibilities seriously. I mean, I would just say he's a child who grew up with a responsibility and getting it right drummed into his soul, like I did. One of the things is that where I come from, we do not smile at someone in front of them and then say something nasty behind their backs. If you're not happy with someone, you raise your voice with them. And that is how it was. So for me to raise my voice was a norm if I'm not happy with someone. And that boy with the father, he was also raising his voice. But when he did, to me, it was a bit scary, and it made him sort of jump up a bit and run around to try and get it right. And he was so happy when the father, praised him for doing it, for getting something right. So, he grew up with a sense of responsibility in him, and he would get at 4 o'clock in the morning, do a milk round, and after a milk round, he would do the paper round. Then he would come home, quickly have breakfast and get ready for school, and then go to school. Something the other two didn't, it was as if life had to be different for them. They didn't feel the need for that kind of thing, to do that kind of thing. But, I was telling you before about my stepdaughter being kleptomaniac. That didn't end there. It continued when we came here. But over here, I don't know whether she was doing it, because people here, they won't say things to your face. They'll probably complain after you've left when they miss something and won't say it, because they say, "Oh, forgive them. They're poor. They're poor people," and not mention it to you. But so I don't ever remember. I've seen her with odd things. I mean, one very crude piece of toy, and she must have stolen that from a grown up, because it was a keyring, and this keyring was two men with their penises erect, and it was made of metal, and then a woman in the middle. The way it was made, it was all like in one piece, and it had this lever, and when you pulled this lever, it was like the men were penetrating the woman back and front, the two men, and it was a keyring. I don't know where she found that, and I picked it up, and when I had it, and I thought someone is gonna. Will they have at the time? I thought someone might ask for it. But she found it, and another time I'll see her with it, and I'm thinking, gosh. Anyway, I just thought, well, leave it, let her be. But apart from that, most of her stealing was from the local supermarket, and most of the time the police will bring her back, knock on my door, and say that we found her stealing at the shop. So this is something that I was contending with, and for me, although everybody might have thought I was the gold digger, I have come from a family which we were well-to-do. Growing up in the village, my grandmother was the only family that one of the very few families, but actually that majority looked up to, because we had what we needed. We had what we needed. More than other people. Things that were supposed to be luxuries, we were the only ones that had them. But also, I was even at my mother's, although I wasn't counted as part of the family, I was despised. They had a certain level of class, and stealing was. What's the word? Embarrassing, to say the least. You wouldn't say, "Oh well, there's a thief in this family." It was such an embarrassing thing to do. I know I spoke about my Uncle Willie being a thief, but he didn't steal small, and he didn't steal from individuals. Apart from when he went to steal the cows, it was always from his employers. But obviously got his comeuppance, and by the time he got himself punished or been to prison and released, and when he's come out, nobody realized what has been going on in his life, and we look at him like he's come back from some better life or something. So that, to me, that was embarrassing, but I think I get the feeling that the police would think, oh, this is the new family that's come from wherever, and we were put right in the middle of the whole estate was known for being a bad estate, because drugs, alcohol, thieving, violence, everything was going on that estate, but mainly in one road, one street, 4th Avenue, where majority of this particular family that created or that made the name what it was, the reputation for what it was, where that's where we were put among their houses, basically on that street, and so we were seen as those poor people, or the black poor people, and so I get the feeling that the police must have thought, you're put right in the middle of it, and you're probably trying to do your best. So, you know, they were feeling sorry for us and not doing much with her and just bringing her back. And that would have been the end of that. But then I started to learn that actually there is a law about criminal responsibility, and the age of 10 was the age of criminal responsibility. And it's just a matter of time that she's going to steal something that they're going to say she needs to be arrested and accounted for what she's done, because she's doing too many of these. So it was a bit like that with her, and our relationship were not good because of that, because I was constantly on her case about not doing that. And, you know, she wasn't having it. And I wasn't, that was the beginning of lack of support. I wasn't noticing it. I wasn't realizing it. But I think, what would you do if your child was constantly doing that and you grew up from my background? Wouldn't you shout at them and tell them, don't ever do that again, you know, because you get yourself into bigger trouble? And she didn't like me. She didn't like me shouting at her. She didn't like me saying, using my words sternly to my voice sternly to her. And I suppose she created, and then what was happening is that she would go off to her half brother, my husband's first son, and I don't know what was said there or whatever was going on, but she would stay there a day and she would come back again. Obviously, they didn't want her there, but when we were back in Zambia, they loved me to bits, because I was the only thing that had given them the level of care that I gave them, because otherwise they fended for themselves most of the time, and they lived on pressure cooker meals on a daily basis. The rest of the time they were just, you know, roaming around with no parent while their dad was in work. So, and after they'd been to school, so it was, you know, they hadn't had it, that kind of care. And also, because although, you know, as I say, because although I wasn't counted as one of the loved members of the family, my family were not down and out useless. I had my mother, who had a big responsibility for the police, and so they could see that she's lived in the same area as themselves, in better housing and better conditions. And also my auntie, who was a doctor, and they understood and respected this. So I was a different class to what they used to. And of course, I became another different class when I got here, because I had a lot more competition. I had, you know, there was the half brother who had better housing. They lived in a better area of Guersilt, and their house was better. It had central heating. It was cleaner. It had newer things. It had fitted kitchens. We didn't have those kind of things. You know, we had to put shelves on the walls to try and put plates and stuff like that. We had no fitted kitchen, nothing, none of that. You know, we had a freestanding stove, and our carpets were not wall to wall. You know, so we were living. We had a house, but it was clearly for poor people like us. So, you know, I wasn't. I had competition in that respect, so she wanted to be over there, and I'm not quite sure what other stories she told, you know, whenever she went there. And it came a point when, and one of the things I really do not like is a grown-up saying that you and her don't get on. Excuse me, I am the adult, she is the child. If I think something is not right that she's doing, I need to point it out. If she doesn't like it, it's not because we don't get on. There is no such thing between a parent and a child. All right, it's not an ordinary social thing that, oh, I like to dance and she likes to sing, and we can't agree whether we should sing or dance. It's not about that. This is about discipline, and it's about the future. Her future is about her life. The thing about we don't get on. Excuse me, where are you coming from? Yeah, in my book, there is no such thing as not getting on between a mother and a child, or a father and a child. There is no such thing, because who is going to point to a child that this is not right? So was it okay if she went stealing and the police bring her back, that I just smile, oh, that's nice, what have you brought? You know, did you steal something good or of value? Is that how I was supposed to respond to that? So get real. Yeah, it's nothing to do about we don't get on. And this is what's ruined, what's added to the ruin that's gone on in my life. Because the kids are not growing up thinking, no, that wasn't the right thing, and no, we shouldn't have done that. Because grown-ups are supposed to pull together and are supposed to say, come on, kid, that's not a good thing. It will ruin your life. You get arrested one day. You will be arrested. You'll be sent to prison. To a children's home, to a secure unit. And that is what I should have been getting, the support. All right. I've gone 30 minutes. I'll leave it there and I'll carry on in a minute.